The NHS has come under a great deal of fire recently. Some of it justified, some of it not. I rather like Jeremy Hunt. When he was Culture Secretary, he made a determined effort to introduce local television to the UK, based on the format used in almost every other part of the world that has real local television. His civil servants screwed up his plan big time, so now Ofcom is murmuring about local television's failure and how no more cash will be allocated to more local licences. Funnily enough, if it wasn't for Mr. Hunt, Mirador Television probably wouldn't be here. Ofcom's failure is small-scale web TV's success, and we're enjoying it. But back to Mr. Hunt, who presides over the NHS. Perhaps mostly throughout the country, the NHS is working well. But we're local TV, and our responsibility is to the people between Battle and Brighton. So we need to look at micro NHS, not the bigger picture. And it seems to us it's in a bit of a mess. Later this week, I'm going to detail 3 local cases where the NHS has fallen down badly, and someone somewhere needs to redress these failings before a real crisis occurs. The 3 cases I shall talk about cover a mental unit in a local hospital, a former Spitfire pilot, let down by almost everyone, and me, a Parkinson's sufferer, who now figures he's getting the thin end of a stick, and not Edward's stick of Mirador programme fame, not my walking stick, but the proverbial stick where poor treatment is handed out. But let me give you a taster. On Saturday night, I blew my top. When I was much younger, I had a short fuse. I've mellowed with age, so it takes something extraordinary to wind me up. A patient at a mental health unit spent a day on release with me. It was a pleasant day. When this patient returned, well before the cut-off time, staff refused to hand a small wheeled suitcase, being carried by him, because it had to be searched, in case it contained a gun. This patient had been visiting me. The last time I had a gun in my hands was when I was in Romania, and the guest of the Chief of Police in Constanta, a Romanian port on the Black Sea. The SWAT team were practicing, and I was invited to try my arm at testing their shooting gallery. Like James Bond, I crept around 2 barriers, carefully carrying my Glock pistol, took aim, fired, and hit the roof, the floor, the ceiling, and other parts of the gallery. The target remained intact. Seriously, they asked me if I wanted to try with a Kalashnikov. I would have wiped them all out. Me with guns. So when a pompous staff member at this hospital told me it was policy and they didn't know who I was, I hit the roof. I yelled until they put the phone down. Probably the right thing for them to do, but the ridiculous attitude of these hospital jobsworths is quite unreasonable. It so happened, on an earlier visit, I discovered a nurse who is a whistleblower, and she relayed what goes on in these institutions. Combined with my own experience, the management of such places is totally unacceptable in a civilised, democratic and free society. So later in the week, my tale of this facility will be fleshed out. So will the story of the Spitfire pilot and the shabby treatment he's received. As for me, well, I remember a game in my youth called Kick the Cat. Not much of a game as I recall, and my own experience of being kicked because of my Parkinson's pales into insignificance, except 2 close friends have recently received similar treatment. So you may be my favourite minister, Jeremy, but your department isn't. These are local stories. Are they replicated throughout the country? I have no idea. But it doesn't matter. Small town TV is meant to look after small town problems. And that's hopefully what we can do. Join me later in the week to hear a bit more about these rather sordid NHS stories. Until then, this is Keith Hayes for Mirador Television. Toodlepip.
Ha 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 ha!